My sister, nephew, and I went to see our cousin about 3 hours away. We headed home at about 10 p.m., so we needed a pit stop, so pulled off the highway into a gas station. All the lights were on, but the place was closed. So we got back on the highway. The next stop was a Casey's right off the highway. The first weird thing, when we walked into the first set of doors, there was a roped off staircase that went down into the basement. My nephew joked that he felt like they were hiding a demon down there. This wasn't a normal Casey's store. It had obviously been something else, and Casey's just moved into it. We all went straight to our respective bathroom in a hurry. So it wasn't until that need was taken care of that we got to really get a feel for the place. It was not a good feeling, honestly. It was like the place had just been thrown together real quick. Shelves were bare. Boxes were stacked haphazardly. The fountain machine had 4 flavors out of order. It was eerily quiet. No usual hum of people talking or lights buzzing, but the crinkle of bags as people looked for the right snack. No one was talking, not even the guy behind the counter. When you made eye contact with other patrons, every one of them seemed to either look right through you or look at you like you're their next meal. I felt like I was in the scene from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Everyone looked human, but acted like they didn't know how to be a human, or that we had interrupted a private meeting and they all shut up when we walked in. I headed to the fountain machine for a drink, and my sister and nephew were already there. My sister had a seriously pissed off look on her face. I waited for 2 guys to finish filling their cups. I noticed that they were all looking around the area, like nothing was where it usually is in these stores. And it wasn't. I looked for something like a cup, a lid, and I didn't see it, but I looked again and it was there. I looked all over for a straw, and one of the guys tells me that they're under the pop machine. I looked there at least twice. I head to the other side of the store to find a snack. I don't yet know why my sister is so angry. It goes through my mind again that no one is talking, not even people that you could tell were together. Everyone has blank looks on their face. Some are standing in the aisle just staring at the selections but not moving. It was really weird that I felt like I'd pursue a group of snack bags. Look at the next group that, when I look back, what I saw hanging on the racks wasn't what I remember seeing 10 seconds ago. And it was so freaking quiet, I swear. The energy in the place was just so wrong. My nephew came and stood beside me. The guy came around the end of the aisle and reached around him for a bag. He got way into my nephew's bubble, but at least he said excuse me. A moment later, my sister was next to us, and she practically had daggers shooting through her eyes. She was vibrating. She was so mad. She tells me that she's pissed as hell, and we need to hurry and get out of that place. She had told my nephew to stay with me while she hit the bathroom again. She didn't want to leave me alone. The guy who invaded my nephew's bubble apparently had been eyeballing me, and not in a nice way. She said he was watching me like a serial killer, licking his lips. And when he realized that she was watching him watch me, he winked at her and walked away. Also, his pants were kind of sticking out. He had on sweatpants. He said something to her, but she wasn't sure what. She said that she felt rage like she'd never felt before and just wanted to get out of there. And again, it's so quiet in this place. Everything about this place and the people were so wrong. I was starting to get twitchy. My skin crawled every time I looked at someone, anyone, other than the people I came with. There was a couple in front of me, I'm guessing in their early 60s. It looked like regular upper middle class people, but I didn't want to be anywhere near those people. They both gave off menacing vibes, especially the woman. She had big eyes and she just kept looking at the corner of her eyes, side-eyeing me. At this point, my sister is practically jumping out of her skin, and it's still so damn quiet. It's my turn at the register, and the guy working, I'm guessing is also in his 60s, says nothing except my total. We pay and get the hell out of there. We couldn't get in the car fast enough. Now, walking by that staircase, my nephew said probably led to a demon and was no longer a joke. The energy in that place was heavy and dark. We got in the car and out of that parking lot before we all had our seatbelts on. We looked at each other and I said I felt like if we were to turn around, that place wouldn't be there. So we all just didn't look back as we drove away. My sister said the rage that she felt was intense, like nothing she ever felt before. She is, how do I say it, highly attuned to things unseen, and she's always right, always. If she says someone or someplace is bad, you better listen. My nephew and I both got on our phones to make sure that the place actually existed. It didn't show up on my phone, Google search, or the map. On my nephew's phone, it showed a Casey, but the other establishment on his map, he did not remember seeing. The whole experience was surreal. Everything about that place and the people in it was unreal. I don't know what to think about it at all. All I know is that all three of us felt that same empty darkness, and I will never stop there again. That is, if it's the next time we go by. Another weird thing, the very next little town is heavily involved with the KKK. The sign for it is within 5 minutes of driving from the Casey's. Nothing but bad vibes and dark energy there for sure. Remember that first place we stopped at? With all the lights on, but was actually closed? If that place had been open, we wouldn't have to have stopped at that Twilight Zone Casey's. I would never, ever drive that far from home by myself. No one should. There is way too much unknown out there, human and otherwise. This happened when I was about 12 years old. I was walking back to my apartment after dropping my younger brother off at school. His was different than mine, and we had the holiday off, so I was going to be home alone for a while today. I stopped at a convenience store on my way back home to stock up on some goodies. I was honestly looking forward to having a little fun by myself, so I grabbed, gummy bears, chocolate, some lotion, the usual. So my apartment was on the second floor of a complex, and the staircase is made of white stone. Anytime anyone walked up and down the stairs, the footsteps echo a bit. As others lived nearby, I'd hear their footsteps at weird hours, which is unnerving at night. Anyway, as I approached the stairs, I froze. Sprawled across the bottom steps was a sleeping man, lying flat on his back, snoring softly. He was probably in his 40s, his clothes were dirty and raggedy, and he smelled like body odor and alcohol. Unfortunately, he was almost blocking my way up to my apartment. I stood there holding my bag of goodies, unsure what to do. After a few minutes, I bravely tiptoed past him, managing a few steps before a sound behind me halted me, a rough-sounding throat-clearing noise, and a nasty-sounding cough. I slowly turned and he was just sitting up staring at me. So, I'm not that big of a person. I'm pretty small, honestly. I'm a good-looking person, which didn't help. He smiled broadly, saying, "Well, hello there, little guy. You alone? You want some company?" I remember yelping in fear and rushing up the stairs, fortunately finding my keys and practically throwing myself inside, locking the door quickly. I heard him slowly going up the stairs, so I put down my bag and I grabbed my crowbar and I kept it near the door with me. As I positioned myself, he knocked hard on the door, making me jump. And he said, "Hey, come on, little guy, let me in. I got a present for you." I didn't say anything, trying to keep quiet. He knocked again, much harder, trying the doorknob, but finding it locked. Then he said, "Hey, just let me in. Don't be unfriendly, I want to talk to you." I finally shouted, and I told him to go away and leave me alone. Cliche, but I didn't know what else to say. Then he said, "Last chance, just let me in, or you're in trouble." I saw that bottle of lotion, just let me use it. I tapped the door with my crowbar, and I asked him, "You hear that? I'm armed. Now leave me alone. I'll hit you if I have to." I tried to sound braver than I felt. I heard him chuckle, but he kept knocking on the door. Suddenly, I heard someone shout, "Hey, who the hell are you?" I heard the man rush down the stairs, and then the shouter in pursuit. Everything was silent for a few minutes. Then someone knocked on my door, and it was my neighbor. He asked me to open the door because the man is gone. I recognized the voice and cautiously opened the door. He told me he heard the man as he had been home on vacation. He chased him away and up the street for a bit. He kindly asked if I was going to be okay. Relieved, I told him I was going to be fine, and I'm good by myself. He told me okay, but warned me to always keep the doors locked and never open them for anyone I didn't know. Until my brother got home at 3. I did have fun alone. Privately. I'm glad he was home though. I never told anyone what happened. To this day, I always exercise caution with my surroundings. Unfortunately, the kind neighbor died a few years later, after making the mistake of doing his own car's brakes. But I never forgot his advice and his good deed. Thankfully, I never saw the homeless man again. The thought that always chills me is, what if Mr. Smith, who lived next door, had not been home then? Would I have been the victim of the homeless man? I sometimes wonder if he has successfully victimized anyone. I almost don't want to know. The lesson here is, always be aware of your surroundings. Be ready to fight if you have to, and try not to panic. And above all, always keep your keys ready and with you. When I was 18 years old, I ended up having my first boyfriend. His name was James, and I felt like I struck gold with him. He was 19, sweet, was tall and slender, eyes like sapphires, light skin, and long black hair. I was also his first girlfriend, as he was adorably shy. We hit it off very quickly, becoming official by maybe the 3rd day after meeting. When he'd greet me, he always had a beautiful smile when he'd say my name. We'd always meet up before and after classes, and at lunch, kissing and making out together. I honestly thought I was in love with him. The only problem was his mother. Her name was Debbie. She was 42 and widowed for several years. As James was an only child, she seemed overprotective of him. A month after our relationship began, the weird stuff began. One day, James and I were hanging out together after classes, and when I heard someone impatiently honking their car's horn, I looked behind us and I saw Debbie seated in the car. She was honking her horn and giving me a strange look. It was a look of suspicion and a bit of hate, which threw me off. She honked once again, and it was hard. She waved an arm like she was telling James, "Let's go." Suddenly, James stood up and said, "I'm sorry, babe, but my mom's here. I'll see you later." He rushed over, practically jumping into her car. I could hear her shout at him, "Jimmy, who the hell is that girl? Your girlfriend or something?" His response made me feel uneasy. "Yes, she is, but don't worry. You're my number one, mommy." They drove away, leaving me wondering what to think. I still loved James and wanted our relationship to work, but over the days and weeks that followed, the weird stuff continued. He eventually stopped hanging out between classes because his mother might need him. I tolerated this, but I was uncomfortable by his own devotion to his mother. One time I asked him if we could have a date somewhere else. His response was, "If we do go out, mom's gotta go with us." I confronted him about that once, and we had a big fight. He said he was all she had, and he was unwilling to separate from her. I reminded him that I was his girlfriend and needed time with him too. A couple days later, we made up and, things improved. But 6 months after that, we became a couple. The worst occurred. On the school bleachers, we sat together kissing and cuddling, going as far as second base. We paused once, holding each other. I whispered into his ear that I love him. and I'll never forget his response in my ear. "I love you too, Debbie." I pretty much threw him away from me in shock and disgust. He said his mother's name, not mine. Grossed out, I stood up, shouting, and I asked him, "What the hell is wrong with you? You said your mother's name." He honestly looked very embarrassed, but his response was the last straw. He said, "Oh my God, baby, I'm sorry, but you're a way better kisser than my mother." I had enough and I began to turn and walk around the bleachers. At the bottom row, I heard him plead, "Baby, please, I love you." I glanced at him, snarled, and I flipped him off. I continued walking away, never looking back. I never saw James again after that, as he dropped out of college shortly. I went on with my life and I didn't think about him at all, until 10 years later. Scanning Facebook one day, I became curious and I looked him up. It was a move I regretted. His profile photo made me wonder if that was actually the same guy, but it was. He was 29, had gained a lot of weight, terrible complexion. His once beautiful black hair was now a greasy ponytail. He was unemployed and still living with his mother. I then viewed his profile pictures and instantly regretted that. The first was titled, "My Mommy." To my horror, it was filled with weird and honestly creepy photos of his mother. The worst was the newest photo, taken a few hours earlier. It featured his mother standing in the doorway, wearing a sheer lingerie nightie and nothing underneath. It was titled, "My Mommy in the Morning." Sickened, I viewed the other photo file. The contents made my jaw drop. The photos featured various body parts of James that showed scratches, cuts, bruising, different colors, and even marks that looked like burns. Turns out James was a little self-harmer and he punished himself frequently. The newest photo was 2 hours old and showed a nasty cigarette burn on his wrist. It was entitled, "I made Mommy angry today. This is my punishment. Sorry, Mommy." I immediately exited the Facebook page, horrified and nauseous. I didn't know what to think. I obviously didn't want to see that again, and I still haven't, even after getting a friend request from him. Somehow, he knew that I had seen his page, so I denied him and vowed to ignore him. In 2017, I got a message from him. His mother had just died, and he was eager, begging to see me again. She had left him a lot of money, and he was a millionaire, it turned out. I almost hated to do it, but I told him to go away, and honestly, I blocked him. I heard nothing from him over a year. Then I got a strange email. It was from a man saying that he was James' uncle. It was Debbie's brother, Mike. What he told me disturbed me. He had gone to check on James after not hearing from him in 2 months. He found James in the second-floor bedroom, lying on his mother's bed, wearing her nightgown, and his hair was in curlers. He had been staring up at the ceiling, almost in a trance, babbling, "Mommy, Mommy, when are you coming home, Mommy? I'm waiting, Mommy." When James had seen his uncle staring at him in shock, James had said to him, "Hi, Uncle Mike. Have you seen Mama? Is she coming home?" Mike told him that he called his mother on the phone downstairs. James had deemed delighted, but Mike had called a services group and eventually hauled James away to a sanitarium. He remains there now, and I can honestly hope that he's getting the help that he requires. I really feel bad for James. His entire life was wasted because of a woman, his own mother, who refused to let him live his life.
Nightmare Files.